Michelle, are you ready?
I was born ready.
She's an award-winning author, speaker, and podcast host who serves on the National Faith Advisory Council. She supported Donald J. Trump for president before it was cool, from her she shed in her beautiful backyard. This is the Michelle Moore Show.
America is going woke. The streets are full of fire and smoke. This ain't the way I thought it would be. The White House full of evil folks. Americans ain't free no more. They don't respect folks like you and me. The way we're treated ain't been fair. Fake news on every TV. 4 years we've been in this nightmare while they killed American dreams. We can't afford our lives here. Rent, food, and gasoline. Colors don't run and I only want it once. Buddy, don't tread on me. I won't forget the ones who died for our freedom, and I ain't gonna hand it back. No, no, no. If liberty and justice ain't enough to believe in, then get out of here and don't look back. Go, go, go. We love our home, and if you don't pack your bags, you're free to go. Don't let the big door hit you with a good Lord split ya. Wave goodbye to Joe. We love our land. If you ain't fans, buddy will help you pack your bags. Don't let the big door hit you with a good Lord split ya. Burn someone else's flag.
America is losing hope, divided by the way we vote. This ain't the way that this all should be. We're fighting over memes and jokes. They're burning flags that we hold close. They think that war's only overseas. The way we're painted ain't been fair. So what, you don't know me? You got something to say, well I'm right here. Thank us for the freedom of speech. You like to claim I don't care, cause I ain't gonna bend no knees.
Colors don't run and I only want it once. Buddy, don't tread on me. I won't forget the ones who died for our freedom, and I ain't gonna hand it back. No, no, no. If liberty and justice ain't enough to believe in, then get out of here and don't look back. Go, go, go. We love our home, and if you don't pack your bags, you're free to go. Don't let the big door hit you with a good Lord split ya. Wave goodbye to Joe. We love our land. If you ain't fans, buddy will help you pack your bags. Don't let the big door hit you with a good Lord split ya. Burn someone else's flag. If you look close, you'll see America. She don't look quite like she did. This ain't the country that our parents love, but I still hear her on the wind. We love our home, and if you don't pack your bags, you're free to go. Don't let the big door hit you with a good Lord split ya. Wave goodbye to Joe. We love our land. If you ain't fans, buddy will help you pack your bags. Don't let the big door hit you with a good Lord split ya. Burn someone else's flag.
Hi, everybody. I don't know. That's kind of a little catchy tune. By the way, I just wanted to tell you I popped into the Rumble chat for a second. I don't normally do that, but I did today. I had a minute. And I noticed that FR7 is saying that Canada's postal strike is resolved and that the mail service is up and delivering mail again. That's what I'm hearing just a few minutes ago. So yes, so thank you for confirming that. And I was just hearing that from producer Ron. So I think we have a couple of orders for Godly Granny that we've been trying to get out and couldn't because of the postal strike. So I'm so glad to hear that that has been resolved. All right, so just crazy stories today. I got a couple of things. I'm going to make a note too on a funny story. I will tell you that my husband did break the news to me this morning that he got another mouse in the mousetrap out in the garage. You know, the near-death experience that I had where I came face to face with a mouse. Well, it turns out that then he killed two more. He got that one and two more. And then now there was a fourth one. So, and $1,500 later, because they got up into my car and ended up biting into a wire and it's all for kinds of mess. So, and then of course I had the second near-death experience where I walked out to the garage and I thought I saw a snake, but it was really an extension cord. So you just never know with me. It took me 45 minutes to calm down. That was quite the week. Anyways, all right. Well, I needed that laugh because I've been preparing for today's show, and I got to tell you, this is very difficult for me because I'm such an empath. Okay. So sometimes some of these shows can be hard on me emotionally. So I'm going to try and keep it together today. But back quite a few months ago, we had Brian Manix on, and Brian Manix is a Catholic Church sexual abuse survivor. And so I would say he's a thriver. But he was abused as a child by a priest, and we're going to talk about that because he has some just crazy updates. And so we're going to find out, what's really going on. And, you see articles and you see different updates on things, and, people do different stories, but you really got to hear it from somebody like a Brian Manix who really has his thumb on the pulse of what is going on. He's been very active with everything that's going on with this Catholic Church and these lawsuits. And so to have it as somebody who's been so active and then share details, you end up finding out how they work and the great extent and the great lengths that the Catholic Church and evil goes to keep from having to be accountable. And so we're gonna go back a little bit and give you a little bit of backstory. So if you're like, man, I didn't see the first show back months ago with Brian, don't worry. We're gonna have him kind of give us a brief, idea of his story. But I do highly recommend that you go back and watch that show. Producer Ron is going to have that in today's show description. So if you go to the Michelle Moore Show Rumble channel, and then and also there's Truth Talk America's Rumble channel. So producer Ron's going to put the link to the first show, the first episode with Brian, in both of those locations for you. Okay. And so I highly, highly recommend you go back and you see the details because he tells the whole story. And so, but today we're talking about some updates. There was a huge thing that happened yesterday in court. And so we're going to talk about all this stuff. And that's a different case than Brian's. And today we're going to also find out an update on Brian's stuff as well. And the people that are also working with him. So this is such a great, time with Brian to just hear so much information. And from an insider, really, from the perspective of somebody who has survived this, but then also the ins and outs. And I have to tell you, in working with Brian and keeping up with the story consistently, I will tell you that it never ceases to amaze me. Brian brings some insight that I would have never known. And so I think, wow, if I didn't know, you probably won't know either. And how would we, so that's what's so interesting. And then the awareness of how it's all working and what's going on helps us to be able to support these people and tells us what exactly we need to be doing in a lot of ways about all of this as well, because we think, oh, well, there's a great headline that this sounds great, but then what is really going on? And so I love that with working with Brian and really having been keeping up to date with this, because he never ceases to amaze me, he and his wife, Kim. So let's go on ahead and bring Brian in. Again, he's a Catholic Church sexual abuse survivor. He was abused as a child by a priest. Hi, Brian. Thank you for joining us and rearranging your schedule to be with me today.
Oh, hey, Michelle, thank you. And thank you, Producer Ryan, for letting me come and tell your audience, give them an update and let them know all the fun we're having.
All right. Well, the first thing I want to do is, I know we have so much to do, so I kind of want to do this and separate yesterday from you, and because that wasn't your case and all of that. So I want to first catch people up a little bit on who you are and your background. Obviously you're, I said that about how you'd been abused as a child. And so will you give us a little bit of a brief synopsis of that situation, what happened to you as a child, and kind of catch us up on that?
Sure. I lived with my grandmother when I was younger, my mother's mother. She was very Catholic. She gave all her money to the church. She went to church every day it was open. She made me get involved in the school and in the church as an altar boy. There was a gentleman named George Bridnack that was the deacon over the altar boys. Well, he was very friendly with me. He molested me. He raped me at 10 years old. This went on for almost a year until I escaped. Went through a lot of turmoil in my life. Didn't know why this happened to me. What did I do wrong? Then at the age of 52, I had an awakening and realized what happened to me my whole life. I was raped by a deacon as an altar boy. And it just came back like a vivid memory. I then started to reach out and found out there were other people like me, quite a few other people like me, and started networking with survivors. Then decided I wanted to help my brothers, and I wanted to put a stop to this because it's still going on today. And I joined a lawsuit, and I wanted to join a lawsuit to shut the doors, to get it stopped. But there were so many of us that awokened at the same time and came forward that the archdiocese said, oh no, bankruptcy. We're going into bankruptcy. So
Okay.
I am involved in a huge case. It's filed under bankruptcy. It's been going on for 4 3/4 years.
Okay.
And we are still nowhere.
How many survivors are part of what you're doing?
Over 500.
Wow. Okay. And what you were explaining to me that I thought was very interesting is you said that there's canon law and civil law, and that the Catholic Church likes to try to use whichever one. They don't consistently stay with one or the other. They manipulate and stay with whichever one at whatever time works best for them and serves
Whatever
their purposes.
benefits them best. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How is that? What does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, like an example, right now, what's going on, Gregory Amon is the Archbishop of New Orleans. He is the one responsible for all these priests. He's the one doing the cover-up for all these priests. Well, guess who turned 75 last month? Gregory Amon. So by canon law, they can request to retire and go sit in an office in the Vatican and drink out of gold goblets. So he has done that. He has put a letter into the Pope asking to retire. Now, he said he would stay on through the end of the bankruptcy. So don't know what that's going to look like. That's one of the events that's happened recently in our case.
Okay.
Because he thinks he's going to run. He thinks he's going to run and hide at the Vatican, and we're not going to let that happen. We can't let that happen.
So is he physically at the Vatican now?
Oh no, he's at the he's at the Archdiocese of New Orleans. The Pope hasn't responded to my knowledge yet. He has written a letter to him. The Pope has to read it, has to look at, but I can promise you the Pope knows what's going on in New Orleans.
Oh, of course.
They say he doesn't, but he does.
Oh, sure. Okay. When you were on last time, there was a lot of conversation about Gail Benson, her emails with her PR team and the Archdiocese. Can you kind of give us some backstory on that and tell who Gail Benson is, explain all of that and what the brouhaha was with her emails, with this set of emails, so that people can understand what you're fighting, what you're really up against.
Gail Benson is the owner of the New Orleans Saints NFL team. She's also the owner of the NBA New Orleans Pelicans. She also owns almost every car dealership in New Orleans. She has a ton of nonprofit organizations, and she's the wealthiest woman in Louisiana. Well, she's very, very friendly with the Archbishop. Her late husband is Tom Benson. And before Tom died, all of a sudden, Tom changed his will, took his kids and his grandkids out of his will. Well, guess who the witness was on the reversal?
The
Gregory
Archdiocese?
Amon. Yeah. So they're very friendly. Kim and I had found through research, and now I can't find it, it's all scrubbed, that since 2017, Gail Benson had given the Archdiocese right at $84 million. That's a lot of money.
When the wheel got changed from the children, who did it get changed to?
Gail. 100% Gail.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And who's
And
she
the
leaving
bigger-
everything to? Do you know?
The church.
Wow. Okay. So what's going on with the emails? The whole thing when you were on last time we talked about was that you all that were going against, and trying to sue the church and they're claiming bankruptcy. You wanted to see the emails, and we're waiting on some rulings to do with that and trying to get those, I guess, unsealed, because somehow they've been sealed since 2021.
Yes, ma'am. So the emails came out. We all got knowledge of it in 2021. Well, the Saints organization went to the court and had them sealed. They're sealed. There's 276 emails between Gail Benson and the Saints PR team and the Archdiocese, and it has to do with child abuse cases. So they're sealed. Well, why are they sealed? If you have nothing to hide, if you read every article that Gail's in about these emails, she says, "Oh, there's nothing. It's no big deal. I wouldn't do that." Well, why are they sealed? If you've got nothing to hide, then why are they sealed? And they are still sealed to this day, along with tons of other information that none of us have seen. The personal records of these priests, bishops, whatever they are, it's all sealed. It's just crazy.
That makes sense. Okay, so what's going on with the case though? Like, what's the next step with your case that you're part of? How many survivors are in there with you in that? You said
right
around
over
500?
Right over 500.
That's just amazing. Are they all men?
Actually, I met a woman yesterday that is a survivor. So there is a woman that I found out now that's in the case.
Okay.
And she got abused at 35.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so very interesting. One thing you said to me I thought was interesting also. You said, they're not going to let anyone get on the stand talking about you and the other survivors, that they're just never going to let that happen.
No, and as we'll discuss about the other case, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because what transpired. But no, they won't let us on the stand, because you put 15 jurors on the stand, there's going to be a handful that's just going to be at all. And they would reward us with everything they could give us.
Okay. That makes sense. And I just think about what you explained about the judge, where she cried the whole time yesterday. Okay, so I want to read a little bit of an article that I was reading over. So this says retired New Orleans priest. His name is Lawrence Hecker. Now, Lawrence Hecker was described and discussed quite a bit, and this case was described quite a bit when Brian was on last time. So when you go back to the other show, which we talked about earlier, that the link to the first show with Brian and myself here on the Michelle Moore Show is in the show description for the two different Rumble channels. And then also Brian actually is on X. So if you have an X account, you can also go to X, and he's already tweeted, and I think I retweeted it too. So it's already been tweeted out as well. And so if I haven't retweeted it, I'll check immediately after the show and make sure that it's on my page. So if I haven't retweeted it, I will. So this article, it had some things in here I really felt was important to kind of give a little bit of a background about what happened yesterday. So the headline says, retired New Orleans priest Lawrence Hecker sentenced to prison in emotional hearing. It says Hecker served for decades in the Archdiocese of New Orleans, which has been besieged by claims of sexual abuse. Boy, is that true. Hecker is 93. So as of yesterday, when he was sentenced, unexpectedly pleaded guilty on December the 3rd. And we'll get a little bit of backstory from Brian on that, to raping one of those men nearly 50 years in a church gym. Now, the case that was going on and all this is about had 36 men in it, or 36 people. Were they all men? Do you know, Brian?
I'm not really sure. I know the three
Okay.
that I saw yesterday were all men.
Men. Okay. So out of 36, 3 spoke yesterday, but we'll go on. So it says 50. So it says, so Hecker unexpectedly pled guilty on December the 3rd to raping one of those men nearly 50 years ago in a church gym, narrowly avoiding a trial set to begin that day in Orleans Parish Criminal District Court. Hecker has not been charged in any other alleged instances of assault. From the witness stand in Judge Campbell's courtroom, the survivor of the criminal, or the center of the criminal case, said Hecker offered to teach him wrestling moves in the weight room of St. Teresa, the Little Flower in New Orleans, ahead of team tryouts at St. John Vianney Prep. It started innocently enough, the survivor said, until Hecker told him to get down on his hands and knees and raped him from behind. Now, the boy gets down on his hands and knees because this is a wrestling move, right? And,
Yes.
and Hecker's supposed to be, so this was about wrestling. So we want to make sure people understand when he got down on his hands and knees, it wasn't to take any kind of a sexual position. This was about thinking that Hecker is going to help him and teach him about wrestling. He says, I tried to get up. I pulled up, said the survivor. I realized his left arm was over my neck. I don't remember much after that. Hecker choked him until he passed out, the survivor said. When the survivor reported the rape to his mother in the church, he was ordered to undergo a psychiatric evaluation for his fantasy stories or face expulsion. Okay. The next thing, Hecker pled guilty. Hecker pled guilty as charged to first-degree rape, aggravated crime against nature, aggravated kidnapping, and theft in that case. Another survivor who said Hecker fondled and molested him 3 times over a 3-year period called Hecker an animal and an evil predator who deceived and manipulated us into believing your good actions were okay. Hecker, the other survivor said, robbed us of our innocence. A third survivor said that he never reported that Hecker had molested him until under the guise of a hernia exam in 1968. My guilt all these years was not telling anyone in authority what had happened. He said, if I would have only told someone about you, perhaps, just perhaps, I could have saved others. Prosecutors said several men had been prepared to testify at trial that Hecker sexually abused them. The Archdiocese of New Orleans, where Hecker served, has recently been besieged by more than 600 credible claims of sex abuse by clergy as part of its long-running bankruptcy case. So this is the case you're a part of. Says Campbell, the judge, so her name was Campbell, tearfully sentenced Hecker following the men's testimony. And she says, I quote, I think it's hard for people to reach back and give of themselves, she said. I want to thank you for sharing your stories. Closure is not going to come from an apology, Campbell continued. Now that Campbell is the judge. Yes. Though Hecker had offered none. And then she goes on to say, you're going to have to find it somewhere else, but I hope that this plea and this sentence gives you some kind of closure, because Hecker would not apologize. And so that's what she's referring to. And so, okay, the last thing that I marked that I wanted to make sure I read was Williams, which was the judge who recused himself back in September of this year, so a few months ago. Would you say, Brian?
Willard.
Oh, it says Williams here. Criticized the archdiocese. Oh, I think he's the DA, maybe.
Yes,
it says
DA is Williams.
Yes, so Williams criticized the archdiocese, currently led by Archbishop Gregory Amond, the man that we were talking about a few minutes ago, for sheltering and protecting Hecker, like what Brian was describing, and dozens of other credibly accused priests, dozens, plural, accused priests whose alleged crimes are now too old to pursue criminally. Hecker has also been credibly accused alongside dozens of others in the Archdiocese of Baton Rouge. Okay, a lot said there. So we had 3 men, and well, let's go back to September. And so we had Benedict Williams. He was the 9th judge to recuse himself in 4.5 years of all these different abuse cases, some of them being with Brian involved with the other 500 plus 600-ish survivors as well. So you're talking about 9 judges in 4.5 years recusing themselves. What's up with that? What do you think?
You tell us. I think it's corruption. They're tied in with the church. They got to be.
Is it their way of buying more time?
Oh, well, sure. That's tactics also. Deny, delay. That's their main tactic. But like you said earlier, it's all delay as long as they can so that the statute of limitations will run out.
There's a statute of limitations for rape of a child?
I don't think there is. How can there be?
I
Molestation is one thing, but rape, we're not talking about molestation. We are talking about raping of children, trafficking of children. I mean, they have been under investigation because they have taken children over state lines from Louisiana to Mississippi and let priests over there rape them.
Okay, so crazy.
And that was one of Hecker's. He was accused of that also.
Okay.
And he confessed in 1999 to it.
Well, Hecker confesses to that in 1999. How is Hecker?
1999, he wrote a handwritten confession to the archdiocese. Okay, this is 1999, right?
Yes.
They know what he has done in 1999. In 2000, some attorneys did a deposition, 8.5 hours with him. He also confessed during that, along with taking the fifth 117 times.
Yeah, I think we covered that in the last show. So when people go back, they'll get to see all that because we showed some of those clips even. And so, Brian, how was he not put in prison back then, 24 years ago, almost 25 years ago?
Been hidden. They move him around. They hide him. They give him sabbaticals saying, oh, they're going through changes in their life. It's just a racket. It's an absolute racket. 1999, he did the written deposition, did a verbal deposition in tape in 2000, and here we are, 2024. Hecker had been to trial 7 times since January this year. Every time he would come to trial, it would be one thing or another. Oh, he had a UTI. We had to bring him to the hospital. Everybody's sitting in the courtroom, no Hecker. Next time it's, well, he's getting old. His memory's not the same. He's got dementia. So then we play games of, okay, we got this doctor come in, do an evaluation. We got this psychologist come in and do an evaluation. Well, he's fragile. So then they finally, after the 7th one, they said, we think that he's capable to at least come stand trial. So on the 24th of September was supposed to be him coming to trial. Well, that's when his judge, Willard, decided to recuse himself. So, of course, that put the brakes on everything right away. It got moved over to a judge, Miss Campbell. She's a female. She automatically said, December 4th, court, start trial. So that's what we were all looking for. Well, December 3rd, they had 100 people in the courtroom, all to be picked as jury, go through for jury selection for the trial the next day. Yeah. Well, Hecker came in on the 3rd and pled guilty to every charge. So he just put the brakes on it again because they don't want us on the stands. They don't want a jury to hear our stories.
Wow. They have to, yeah. Because they'll be bankrupt, all right.
So with that happening on December 3rd, Judge Campbell said, I'm doing his sentencing September 18th. December 18th. And that's what yesterday was. His
Okay.
sentence.
Yeah. And that's what we were describing in that article. So a victim on the stand discusses calamari covering up for Hecker yesterday. I read in the Guardian article. So there's an article, producer Ron, let's take a look at the cover of this with the Guardian. It says retired New Orleans priest gets life in prison after pleading guilty to child rape. And it says that Lawrence Hecker declined to apologize to his victims at emotional hearing that closed the book on grueling legal saga. Now, again, this is only 36 of the survivors. This is not, everybody. This is not the hundreds of people that Brian is part of. And Brian was not part of this actually against this particular man. But what is the deal with calamari? So tell us a little bit about that situation.
Calamari, the third gentleman that came up and gave his story yesterday in court, the one that was choked out and then raped, he actually had no choice but to tell his mother, because his mother was the type that knew what she sent him to school with. Mm-hmm. And when he came home later that evening, he had a gym bag with those things missing. And so she started questioning, and she questioned him until he finally gave in and told her. So then she went to the principal, who was calamari, at the school. And calamari told her what you read in that article. He needs psychiatric help, and he needs to be quiet or he's going to be expelled. Well, guess what? They expelled him.
Oh,
so calamari,
so he wasn't quiet?
No, calamari did not do what he, as the principal, was supposed to do. He did not report it. He didn't do anything about it. Now, calamari is one of my friends' predators, and he's still alive. So there's a lot going on, a lot of chatter about calamari right now.
You were saying that there's probably going to be more that goes on and people start hearing his name more.
Yes, ma'am. I believe so.
Is that what happened with this case? Is it started to kind of bring him forward and with his role?
I think so. Okay.
I wondered. All right. So Hecker, who was sentenced yesterday to life in prison, is 93 years old. Just before the show, I asked you, Brian, is this justice? It had to be decades since he has been abusing children. And you said, oh, yeah, it was in 1965 when it first came out. And that's 62 years. And that people knew. And so, at 93 years old, he's lived a life. This doesn't seem like, but maybe a pebble of some kind of, I don't know, justice in some small way for these survivors. But he's 93.
Yeah. How much longer does he have? And I hope, like I said, I told you earlier, I hope for those three men that were there yesterday got some kind of closure. Felt that they got some kind of justice, because the one thing they did get to do, Michelle, was they got to tell their story in a courtroom. And look at him in his face and remind him what he did to each one of them. Yesterday was a just bottle of emotions. I cried the whole entire time. Yeah. Cries of happiness, cries of sadness, just mixed emotions. But because I'll never be able to get to do what those men got to do, because my brother died in 2020, 2 weeks before his deposition. So I won't be able to get that chance, but boy, was it nice to watch and hear. And I got to say, the judge, God showed me that she had compassion, because she cried the whole time each one of those men told their story. And then when she sentenced Hecker, she was bawling. And then afterwards, she said, I hope this gives you some kind of closure. And I hope that later in the future, you can learn to trust people, because a lot of them don't. A lot of us don't. Definitely don't trust any clergy.
Sure.
I don't
I saw one.
or father or nothing. I got my Father in heaven.
Yeah. I saw where one man said that he keeps to himself, doesn't trust anyone, and how it affected him his whole life.
And he still doesn't trust anybody. And like I told you before in my story, none of us have any family. Our family shuns us. Nobody calls me and asks, how are you doing? When they know all this craziness is going on. Send videos of people. They're not interested. It doesn't affect them. They're not interested. So
And
it's
that's
a
your own
lonely,
family.
yeah, it's a lonely road for us survivors. And like that third gentleman said, he has nobody, no friends. He has nobody but his wife. And guess what? I'm real close to that also.
Mhm. Yeah.
I've got a couple survivors that I can talk to on a daily basis, and we get along. But that's another thing that people don't realize that's going on is these men are all have issues. We all do. We'll never be 100% healed. And there's a lot of infighting going on between survivors. And I was really torn about going yesterday. I prayed about it. Then I talked to Kim about it. And I prayed some more. And then I decided I'm going because one of the survivors yesterday, I've had a little bit of ugliness from. And I'm glad I did because I had no idea that any of those men were going to be able to get on the stand and tell their story. And it was just unbelievable. Like
So
I
you
said,
said
there was a dry eye in that courtroom.
it's incredible.
Kleenex were being busy.
All right. So you said earlier that yesterday was a range of emotions for you, even though it wasn't your case and you didn't get to get up on the stage or up on the stand. My question to you is, so you said, I laughed, I cried. So I was happy, I was sad. So even this morning, real early when we spoke, you sounded very happy. And so my question to you is, what was the sad part? What was the happy part? Can you explain that?
The sad part was listening to those poor men, my brother's stories, because you don't know every survivor story. Most of them don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it'll break you down. It's
Sure.
horrible. It's horrible what these people did to us as children. And so that was my sorrow part, is my feelings for those men up there and giving their testimony to that judge and to that courtroom. My happy part was that I got to see Hecker face to face. I stared him down the whole time I was in court. No remorse on that man's face. He played with his hair. He played with his glasses. He played with some blow up thing he had next to him. He never looked up at any of the survivors.
Mm.
But that's what my happy part was, that we did get some kind of justice, even though it wasn't a big, it's something. And that's more than we've gotten in how many years?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, one of the things that we were talking about also right before the show is I said, how does this insanity stop? And you said, well, it hasn't stopped. It's still happening. And I said, what do you mean? And so share the news about just in Tennessee.
Just last week, a pastor from West Knoxville is under indictment or under investigation. And now a pastor from Morristown, Tennessee, is under investigation. Now, I don't know anything more than that because they're under investigation right now. But It's still going on, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going on today.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. I wrote down a question I wanted to ask you while we were talking earlier. And I said, what does it do to you to see people continue to go to Catholic churches and to pay their tithes to the Catholic Church?
I think it's insanity. They don't realize their money from tithing at church and the tuition they're giving these Catholic schools, which is not cheap, where they think their money's going to. It's going to pay for our child abuse lawsuits against the clergy. Is that really what you want to spend your money on? Because that's where it's going. Whether you know it or not, that's where your money is going.
Wow. You said a quote that I wrote down. You said the only money they have is your money. Talking
That's right.
about the people's money, not my money, but the people's money.
Not my money either.
I've never been in a Catholic church. But oh goodness, Brian. So let's read a few viewer comments. Okay. You know, I always love viewer comments. KM Sunshine 1974. Hello, KM. She says, my heart goes out to Brian and all the other SA survivors, sexual abuse survivors. FR7 says, Brian, my heart goes out to you and others. My prayers go out on your behalf and for everyone who was abused like that. Taurus 66 says, this is a horrific and evil what was and is still going on. My prayers to you, sir. And then Deborah Lynn W says, I always pay attention to our local news to see if they ever make mention to abuse of children by clergy at my childhood Catholic school and church. I just turned 69 and I have heard nothing. Wow. 200.
Well, it's hiding, Michelle. Just like in our case. Well, in all of our cases. Okay. The Archdiocese has come up with a credibly accused list. Last time we talked, it was up to 78. Well, it's miraculously up to 101, but they still got a ways to go because we have right over 300 that we're accusing.
Oh,
just in New Orleans.
So they're giving in. The Archdiocese is giving in a little bit and going, okay, well, this one seems credible. Yeah. Is that what you're saying? Oh, really?
We're up to 101, but they got a ways to go.
Well, you're going to have to fight. You know, one of the things the Holy Spirit told me a few years ago is enemy never gives up ground easy.
No,
you know, evil doesn't, not the enemy.
Vicious. I mean, they are really vicious.
Oh, I can't imagine.
There was not a representative from the Archdiocese or church of any sort yesterday in court. None. Because they gave him up. He's going to jail. They don't have to worry about him getting in front of a court or a jury. Gone. Next one. Move on.
Well, he's 93.
Yeah.
It's low-hanging fruit. It's low-hanging fruit. When I told you when I was getting ready and preparing for today's show and reading through the articles and all the stuff that you sent me, I heard that he was a sacrificial lamb, like he was sacrificed. He drew the short straw. That's what I heard. He drew the short straw. In other words, it was just his time. It was him. You know, it's like, okay, well, which one's going to be, like you said, the sacrificial lamb? He drew the short straw. It was him. And so that was, and I heard it. Oh, I got goosebumps saying it again. And so, yeah, it's just, you know, like I said, is 93 getting life in prison? Is that really a victory? And so I get what you're saying. I think you make a great point. You know, these men got to sit in a courtroom and they got to say these things and all of that, but just wish it would have been 62 years ago, back in 1965. That's all, you know.
As the DA said, this man should have been spending his life already in prison a while ago.
Yeah.
Especially after you have a deposition, handwritten deposition to the Archdiocese in 1999. Why didn't they do something then?
Yeah, it's insanity.
And then through this time, he's promoted to Monsignor. So let's make it even worse.
I mean, it really genuinely is insanity. It's not just the people going to the church, continuing to go to the church and tithe and enable all of this. It's like we're feeding our own enemy. And then that, you know, and then you've got, they're promoting him. I mean, it's so much crazy. And so 200T says, Lord, grant complete healing, body, mind, and spirit for Brian and all like him. And so, so good. Thank you so much. And so it's just, I know it's an ongoing thing. I know that you continue to fight, Brian, and you got an amazing wife. I know you have an amazing supporter there, and I praise God for that, for you. And I'm glad that. Mm-hmm.
Would you like a little more update on our case?
Sure.
Okay. Since we talked, I I don't know if we did on your show. I can't remember. At the time, our attorneys did a deposition on the trustee for the Archbishop, the man that they brought in to run the bankruptcy. Well, during the deposition, they found out that this man had no knowledge of bankruptcy or how it works, really didn't have any knowledge on the financial aspects of a bankruptcy. So this was a friend of Amon's that he put in front of the trust. Well, after that deposition, there were a lot of feathers ruffled. So Judge Grable, who's residing over the bankruptcy case, decided to call in a specialist that deals with bankruptcy. They paid him $350,000 and his team to come in and do an investigation of what's gone on in the 4.5 years of the bankruptcy, and then do a report. And it was a bunch of blah, blah, blah. But also since that, we've actually had some movement where our group, the unsecured creditors, came up with an offer to the Archdiocese.
Like a settlement?
A settlement.
Okay.
It was $2 billion, which would give each survivor $1.5 million. Guess what the Archbishop came back right with? $62.5 million. That's $125,000 per survivor. Now, I'm not in this for the money, because you can't give me enough money to give me back what you stole from me. But what a slap in the face. They want to get out as cheap as possible. And then we were reading some articles this morning. We found out that the Archdiocese has sold some more properties. So they're trying to get their money up a little bit more. But we've also learned too, Michelle, that the bankruptcy is not just in Louisiana. That's their MO now. And what we're finding out is that gives them time to shut things down, move assets, because they don't want to tell you all the assets they have, because they got to have money to keep operating. You know, this is just bankruptcy. This is reorg, and let's get back to business. So,
yeah. And you were just sexually abused. That's all. You know,
it's no big deal.
Like ruining people's lives, but no big deal.
So
Unbelievable.
Judge Grable has said recently that she's given both sides 60 to 90 days to come up with something, or she's possibly going to drop the case. Well, I can tell you that the Archbishop and the Archdiocese does not want that to happen, because then we go back to square one, and guess what? They're not in bankruptcy.
They're not in bankruptcy?
If she dismisses the case, it starts all over again. And it doesn't start in bankruptcy.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
I would say that there's going to be a settlement soon.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of it, Michelle, because this doesn't give some of us like me that want the door shut. And I want to see him brought out in his pointy hat and his funny gown and all his jewelry in handcuffs. That's what I want. And I'm not going to stop until we get it.
Well, we just want accountability and justice.
And we got a little bit of justice yesterday. A little.
Christ Believer says, the first time I heard about this, I couldn't sleep for 4 months without seeing it in my mind. God bless you, my friend.
It's still going on today. People have got to keep their eyes open.
All right, I have. Oh, yes. And stop going to the Catholic Church and giving them money. Okay, so one last question. Oh, it just escaped me. It came to me, and then now it's just escaped me. I don't remember. All right. Well, Brian, I appreciate you coming in. Oh, yes. I wanted to ask you about your faith. You know, I know you and Kim are strong believers. And, I know that you've got to see other survivors that this has really rocked their faith in God and has really, I hate to say it, like messed up their perspective on all of this, of course. So, I always just think to myself, how can people get through this that without God and without that faith?
If you don't, you can't. I mean, yesterday out of the 3, and see, now when you're Catholic, they don't teach you the Bible. During their sermon, they will use one little phrase out of a book and a chapter, and then they'll put their spin on that, what that meant. But that's the only part of the Bible you ever hear in the Catholic Church. So Catholics don't really know God's word.
Yeah.
But, I remember I told you I was prophesized over, and that's how I had my awakening. And that woman told me that I was going to bring a lot of men back to Christ. Well, I saw some that were partially there yesterday, and I saw some that were like me when I was younger. Didn't want nothing to do with God, didn't want nothing to do with the church, didn't want nothing to do with anybody. And that was the last survivor, the one that was choked out. And it broke my heart because I've been there. I know how he feels. But you got to realize we didn't do this. We didn't cause this. This was not God. This was a satanic, because it's not Catholic Church. It's a gay cult. Bottom line. It's a gay cult.
Oh my goodness. FR7 said, God bless you, Brian. Thank you for sharing with us today. Your stories all need to be heard. I pray for justice on behalf of all the children. 200T says, and it must be exposed that Catholic charities directly facilitate child trafficking to this very day. Attorney Chris Ann Hall was eyewitness to their buses. Yeah. So I think Catholic Charities is even potentially involved with all the stuff going on at the border. Not all of it, but a lot of it with the trafficking. From what I've seen,
between them and the Mormons, bringing all the children in right there at the border and then send them out.
I think we'd be shocked to know who all is involved in trafficking these children, and it's just crazy. Brian, thank you so much.
Talking about God and being the faith.
Yes,
I know a lot of Catholics don't know phrases or anything in the Bible unless they really read the Bible. Most of them don't, because they're told to pray a rosary, and it's usually Our Fathers and Hail Marys. But I plant seeds, and there's certain verses that I stand by, and Matthew 18:6 is the main one. And I was very surprised yesterday when the first gentleman looked at Hecker and said, I forgive you, but you have to deal with a much bigger power than me. And then his closing statement, he did Matthew 18:6. So if I didn't do anything, I want to believe that I gave that little bit of hope, and that resonated with him.
That's great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming and sharing. You always do such a great job on such a difficult topic. And of course, we'll stay in touch, and I'll keep up to date with what's going on and have you back when we have another update. Thank you, Brian. You have a good rest of the day, honey.
Thank you, Michelle.
He's just amazing. He does such a good job discussing this, and does so much behind the scenes, and it's just amazing. Okay, so I had something else that I wanted you to see, since we're talking about this kind of stuff with we were talking about sexual abuse, and then we're talking about even there at the end about the trafficking. Take a look. So Tom Homan was on with Tucker Carlson, and listen to what was said.
If you go to any construction site in the big construction site, they're building a data center or a mall. I know this because I know a guy who in the business just told me this. Anyone in the United States, there will be child prostitutes there from Latin America brought in by the cartels for the guys on the cruise. And I said, does everyone know this? He said, well, everyone knows it. I mean, it's just a fact. Every big construction site in the United States. Does anyone ever do anything about it? No, no one ever does anything about it.
Wait till January 21st.
I don't understand that, though.
No,
if
look,
everyone in the building trades knows that, how can law enforcement ignore it?
we're not going to starting January 21st.
Good.
But I can tell you, look, of the over 300,000 this government lost track of, I guarantee you, as I sit here today, we'll find many in forced labor. We'll find many in forced sex trafficking. That's the sad thing. We're going to find them. So that's why President Trump's saying, seriously, we got to save, especially we got to save these women and children that are put in this position. The immigration consequences will still come, but first we got to save and get these kids. As far as the kids, over 300,000, we got to save these kids. A lot of them are living life hell every day, and I guarantee you, we're going to find. ICE HSI has already found some of these children in meat packing plants, cleaning up entrails on a midnight shift. We're going to find some living with pedophiles. We're going to find some are in sex slavery. Some are going to be dead, but we got to find these children. And President Trump made that a third rail of priorities.
Yeah, well, that child labor. So it's not just the sex trafficking, there's child labor as well. I ended up learning that last year in some of our shows that we did a lot of stuff very early on. We may go back and revisit a couple of shows that talk about some incredible things that we ended up finding when it comes to trafficking down in Arizona. Okay, so as a real estate agent, I've looked today and I've right at 30 years as being a licensed real estate agent. I've earned over 40 sales and leadership awards in the real estate industry prior to doing the Michelle Moore show and being called to this. I used to even have a radio show on Music Row with iHeart that was called The Power of Real Estate. And then I own a real estate school teaching real estate agents how to sell, because believe it or not, all those credits, those continuing ed credits, they never really teach you how to sell and run a business and how to market and all of that. So my school did that and really taught the real world kind of stuff. Well, one of the things that I noticed through the years when I would sell like to a family that may be like Indian, especially the Indian population, they a lot of times will live 3 generations in a home. So you have the grandparents, you have the mom and dad, and then you'll have the children. And so a lot of times I would end up selling them maybe a 2-story home on a basement. So the kids lived upstairs. Then you had, the main level where the grandparents lived. And then the parents a lot of times lived down in the basement. And so, but I noticed that it was always such a huge ordeal to sell a home to these people, because you had to have every generation come in and they all looked, and then they had cousins and brothers. I mean, it was a big ordeal. People that weren't even going to live in the home were there, but they were all related and friends and all that kind of stuff. And so it's gotten me to thinking here lately. There's been a number of things that's happened lately that I've thought, this has got me to thinking. And so this is one of the things I've been pondering and thinking about is, do they really have it figured out? I mean, they're buying these huge homes. I mean, I'm telling you, some of these homes, obviously a 2-bedroom a 2-story with a bonus. A lot of those homes would be 3,000 and 4,000 square feet that I was selling brand new. And so, I'm just reflecting back and thinking about that. And then I saw this video today, this morning, and I saved it and I wanted to show it to you. I thought it was very interesting. So is moving out a PSYOP? It's just a great question. Let's take a look at this. Very interesting.
Do you think that moving out of your family's house is a PSYOP?
It is not just the act of moving out of your family's house, but consider this. If you have 10 members of a family and they all scatter to the 4 winds, where they at least a half hour apart from each other or more, 2 hours apart, states apart, and they will not see each other anymore, and they're going to pay 10 different sets of rent, 10 different sets of utilities, 10 different sets of groceries, 10 different sets of everything, then what are they going to do? They will live alone in these apartments or in these small structures. They will desperately crave connection with strangers. They will spend tons of money on escapist entertainment. The research actually shows the average American spends about 5 years of their life on escapist entertainment now, and that was before COVID. We need to actually update that information for after COVID now. But the average person, their depression is off the charts. They are crushingly lonely. Among millennials, for example, the research shows that up to 65% of them report overwhelming loneliness, and 35% of them report such incredible loneliness that they report suicidal feelings. So I know that this system is not working. I know that shoving people back into bad families is not the answer, but fixing families where they are truly loving and caring and nurturing, building better systems where the families can take care of each other and where there's accountability as well, so that families are governed with real love and care and nurturing, and then getting people reconnected so they're not financially struggling with 10 different sets of rent, but they can all pool their money, and then everybody has more money and more resources and less stress that way. Building that system back is exactly what we need, so that people can at least find some safety and security in this world, and then they can talk about the problems and they can solve them together as a family.
Okay, so very interesting. And as my sons have gotten a little bit older and I've been reflecting, I'm like, well, we all get along great. I mean, even last night we're sitting around the fireplace and talking and laughing and carrying on. And so, it's like, okay, well, we're not in a hurry for our children to leave, and like he said, it's about having a healthy, happy family, and we enjoy each other's company. We enjoy being around one another, and it's a healthy, happy environment. I know that not everybody has that, but it's just, if you have a child who's 23, 24, 25 years old, and, we always go, well, they living in mom's basement, but really, we see it as a negative thing, and maybe it's not so negative. And so maybe it's a good thing. And, my kids are able to save me. I keep telling them, I'm like, this is your opportunity. This is the opportunity I didn't get to have as a child that I always wished I had been able to have. And that is to stay somewhere, stay with your mom and dad. Y'all got it made up in this place. They're like, oh, we know it. We know it. And so I'm like, why don't you, save? This is your time to save. And they do. And my kids are doing amazing. And so they're thriving with their jobs. They're thriving with their finances. They're just doing amazing. And so, but they're taking advantage of every opportunity that they have. And they have a great life. I mean, they got it made. And so I just thought, so many times we think others, we see a 23, 25-year-old kid at home, a daughter or son, and we think, why are they still at their parents' house? And, and so I think that this has really got me to pondering and thinking about how really that's not necessarily a bad thing. And so I just wanted to bring that up and maybe give you something to think about as well. Thought it was very interesting. Okay, so I got to tell y'all something. First of all, Godly Granny. Oh my goodness. Y'all have just been amazing. I saw where there was a comment a little bit ago at the beginning of the show. And I saw where Taurus 66 said, oh my goodness, I have a review of my Godly Granny products to give. I am on my way to work and will email Michelle in the next few days. All I can say is get your blessings for health. That's so awesome. It says a forever buyer. Oh, I can't wait to hear what happened. I've already been getting some referrals. I mean, some testimonials from people about the products and how much they love them. And of course, that just always blesses me. I love it. And so I just love it because this is what we do it for. We do it to make a difference in people's lives. So I can't wait to hear what happened. So Taurus 66, I'll be looking for your email. Okay, so I got a funny story for y'all. Okay, so, I told y'all about the near-death experience with the mice and the extension cord, which I thought was a snake, legitimately thought it was a snake. Okay, so, but I had the craziest thing. You ever have something crazy happen? I feel like I have some crazy things happen a lot. And so when I used to do the radio show, I'd meet somebody and they'd say, oh my gosh, I listen to your radio show all the time. You are so crazy. And then I started noticing a lot of people call me crazy. So anyways, all right. So I just tell off all kinds of stuff. So anyways, and so this is so funny. So I'm talking with John, Linda Bammer's son, John Bammer, and he works for Wave Watch, right? And so this was like, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago. And so I say to him, did I see something that was showing that the new model, the 2.0 Wave Watch, the one that's round, okay, this is the brand new one. And it is just crazy unboxing and just the presentation's amazing, but love the watch. And we'll talk about that in a second. But there's the graphite and then there's the rose gold. Okay. And so this one's graphite. You can see it's black. It's not the rose gold. So I am thinking when they announced rose gold and the graphite, I'm like, oh, I love the graphite. Rose gold. Like, isn't that like, I don't know, from like 20 years ago? Like, who wears rose gold? So I asked John about it. I said, did I see something that said that rose gold is actually selling at a higher rate than graphite? And he goes, oh yeah, not the same, but better. And I'm like, I don't even have anything rose gold in my entire home. And so I'm just blown away by this. Okay. I'm thinking it's like, something people aren't wearing anymore. I kid you not. The same day, I go into my closet and all of my clothes are color coordinated and just, by different sleeve lengths, and then by long sleeve, and then by without collars, and then long sleeve with collars. I have a whole thing. I've been doing it for, forever. So it's just how I am. So I'm all organized. And so I decide I'm going to wear something different that I hadn't worn in a while. And so I'm in my black t-shirts and stuff. And I pull out something. I'm like, I hadn't worn this. And I pull it out and I do a double take. And I kid you not, it's a rose gold zipper. I was sitting there going, I just had this conversation with John not an hour before. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't have a thing that's rose gold. And then I pull out this top that I, really haven't worn in 2 years. It's a rose gold zipper. And I wore it that day. But I just thought, only me, I would turn out to have something and pull it out that very day. And so I just thought that was so funny. What's the odds, right? And so I stand corrected. Okay, it was just so funny. Okay, so 200T says, I grew up in New Jersey. Italian families often lived in generational homes and neighborhoods. Well, there you go. See, I lived with my grandparents and my mother. So we grew up like that, but it was because my mother and father had been divorced, and my mother back then couldn't afford for us to be on our own. And so I just thought it was interesting. Grolden says, agree, never understood why in the Western culture kids are pushed to move out at 18 years old. Yeah, I mean, or just early at all, or it's even like frowned upon. So I love it. W.R. Carr says, you're not crazy, just loving. Well, maybe a little crazy. But anyways, and so, but it's always an endearing way that people are like, girl, you are crazy. So anyways, but I just thought that was amazing. All right. So we're close to, I haven't told producer Ron this, so don't tell him, but I have this thought. And so we're really, really close to 500 orders. And so I think that whoever ends up ordering and being the 500th order, I think we're going to do something special for them. I haven't decided what that is going to be yet. So we'll have to see what that's going to look like. But by the way, so let me tell you about this. So I get the Wave Watch, the new one. I had the prototype. We're giving it to a viewer. So we've given away 6 Wave Watches this month. And one of them is the prototype. I think we're going to give away the other one too. So in fact, I know we are. So that'll be 7 we'll give away, but we haven't picked the 7th winner yet. We called the 6th one and let her know. And so now that the Wave Watch box came in, now we'll be able to do all that. But anyway, so the last couple that we added on, because, initially we were only going to give away 2, and then it came to 3, and then I couldn't pick. And so we ended up we gave 5. Then the 6th one ended up being somebody who's a widow. And then I don't know who the 7th one's going to be yet. We'll have to figure that out. We might just hold on to it. My birthday's January 31st. That's another thing I want to tell you about. And so we're going to do Michelle Aganza. I had a meeting with producer Ron today. And I said, well, Michelle Aganza's coming up. That's going to be a big deal. And so, because that's what we do, we make it a big deal here at the Michelle Moore Show when it's my birthday. Now, I haven't looked up to see what day of the week that is, but it's January 31st. You're going to want to watch that show live. Okay. That's all I know. I hadn't even made any phone calls yet, but I'm going to be making some phone calls. R.L. Wood says, I bought Godly Granny for all of my gifts to give and didn't get me anything but the cold, flu, and allergy balm, and it works great. I love it. Producer Ron says that January the 31st is a Friday. That's perfect. Perfect. So, we're going to be giving away some stuff. I don't care if I even have to pay for all of it. We're giving it away. We're going to have a celebration. And so producer Ron's like, oh my, I'm sure. But anyways, we just have the bet. We're so blessed to have producer Ron. He already telling me my birthday's on a Friday. I had no idea. So anyways, and then our 500th order, which I think could be any minute. We had 3 orders just right before the show. We're like in the 490s. Okay. Like we're that close. And so, and producer Ron wants everybody to know that his is actually this Monday. It's true. Producer Ron. And we don't have Ron Aganza. I asked him if he wanted to have Ron Aganza, and he said no. So he said no. I said, well, we could give away, I don't know, computer equipment and producer kind of things like a microphone or something. And he said no. So anyways, he said, let's keep it to Michelle Aganza and Flash Aganza, which I like that. That's fine. That's all good in the hood. And so it's all good. But anyways, so I want to remind you that when you place your Godly Granny order to use Michelle 10, so Michelle has 2 L's, no spaces, and the 1 and the 0. So don't forget to do that as well to get 10% off. And I'll be keeping an eye out. We'll see who's the 500th order. I'm excited about it. And we're going to do something good, really good. I don't know. I'll have to talk to producer Ron and we'll come up with something. All right, let's see. We got a couple of viewer comments and then we're going to call it a day. Oh, Natalie said, happy birthday. Love you, Ron. And so viewer Natalie, she says, my hubs has been talking about this for years now. And so I'm thinking you're talking about why the kids have to move out so early. And then it seems like it's a negative thing if they're still at home. Now, we haven't had that, but my kids are only 18 and 20. And so I guess, at 22, 23, we might start experiencing that where they're like, maybe friends and people might start commenting saying, when are your kids moving out? But I'm not in a hurry for that at all. This is their time to be able to, like I said, save and, and still they help with the laundry. So, and the dishes. So I'm all for them staying at the house. Oh, yeah. Natalie said, yes, the family unit staying together. All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I want to remind you tomorrow's show is Phil Turney. He is the USS Liberty survivor that just recently had that big interview with Candace Owen. Well, his second interview is here. He's going to be here. And what I love about our show is that y'all get to ask questions and share your thoughts and, and post your comments that we can share with him. And so I'm excited about that. Jack and Margie, I asked them to submit some questions and they have as well. And then also have submitted some things for Phil to consider. And so we're really excited about that and we'll see how that goes, but I'll keep you updated. And so we'll see you right here next time on the Michelle Moore Show.
I'm Dr. Fulgens. For over 30 years, UCB has helped customers strengthen portfolios with gold. But let them tell you in their own words.
Buying gold and silver from Universal Coin and Bullion has been one of the greatest experiences for me, and it's been an easy process and also a very safe process to do that.
Call now to secure your 1-ounce gold or silver American Eagle coin with no dealer markup.
Did you know your cell phone emits radiation that has been linked to increased risk of certain types of cancers? This is why manufacturers include hidden warnings to keep your phone away from your body. And what's worse is that children are more susceptible to the potentially damaging effects. Safe Sleeve for cell phones is a case specifically designed to block radiation. Its shielding technology integrated into the case has been tested in a third-party FCC-accredited lab to block over 99% of RF and 92% of ELF radiation emitted by your phone. It also functions as a stand for watching videos and comes in a magnetically detachable style for some devices. Safe Sleeve also offers anti-radiation cases for tablets and laptops and has free shipping in the U.S. plus discounted worldwide shipping is available. Go to truthtalkamerica.com today and click on the Safe Sleep banner on the home page. Use the discount code FIRST10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Are you tired of all the pills in your medicine cabinet? I'm Linda Bamber Olson, the creator of the Wave Watch, a more natural approach with 1,000 frequencies for mind and body. People have used the Wave Watch for kidney stones, arteries, blood, immune system, vagus nerve, myocarditis, allergies, colds and flu, ADD and ADHD, strokes, Parkinson's, carpal tunnel, thyroid, Lyme disease, and so much more. Wave Watch has a 1-year manufacturer's warranty for defects and flaws, and you can also upgrade to an additional warranty for water damage and breakage. Are you tired of all your pills and endless trips to the pharmacy? Why not try the Wave Watch with 1,000 different self-care ideas and put your mind at ease?
Just go to wavewatch.com. At checkout, use the code Michelle100 to receive $100 savings on your purchase.
For Michelle's social media links, go to MichelleMooreShow.com.